guys, it's Kelly here, and I am back with another video. Today's video is featuring some products from Pretty Pink Posh. This is from their latest release. I showed you those adorable little ladybugs, but I actually didn't end up using them. I used the XOXO word shaker, I think it's the Valentine's Greetings, what is the name of that stencil? Lots of Love, maybe? Or maybe that's the shaker. I don't know. I'll list it all below. No, Love is Kind is the shaker bits. But anyway, the shaker bits are very important because that's how I actually picked my color scheme. Isn't it funny how you don't necessarily think about how cute colors are until somebody else puts them together? So as soon as I opened up my little package and saw the Love is Kind with the cherry red, the light pink, and the light blue, I was like, that's adorable. I am going to use that. I'm going to use that. So here, I wanted to use the stencil. I wanted to have something going on in the background so that it wasn't boring, but it wasn't going to distract away from my focal point. So I chose to use the stencil and just some white pigment ink over this blue. This is Malibu from Spellbinders. And so I just went over that. The white on the blue is enough that you can read it and it adds interest, but not so much that it's kind of crazy all over the place. And then from there, I'm going to get into building my shaker. So this has the outline, the outside, for the full piece of it. And then it has the inside pieces so that you can cut it to be an outline. Because I'm going to cut multiples of these, whether you use my little trick or you don't, you still have to cut multiples. So I'm going to use a very large piece of low tack tape. This is mint tape. And that's going to hold everything together so that I can run it through my die cutting machine. This is the trick. This is where it's at so that you can make literally the easiest shaker ever without wasting tons of time cutting out multiple layers of cardstock. It's craft foam. And in my case, I just have some stuff left over from my kids. But there are lots of other there are lots of craft stores that sell it. And actually, scrapbook.com has one that has the adhesive on the front and the back, which I think is brilliant for shaker cards. And it's on sale right now. But anywho, so I ran it through with the cherry cardstock, and then I'm going to run it through again. Little tip with the foam. Don't run it through long ways because it can stretch out the foam. Run it through landscape so that way it doesn't stretch out those letters if you're running it kind of from left to right versus up and down. And then this is going to be all of the width that you need to be able to create the shaker, and it's in the exact shape that you need, and it makes it super easy. So I knew that I wanted to fill in one of them, whatever one wasn't the shaker, I wanted to fill it in with that light pink, but I wasn't 100% which one I was going to do. So I'm just going to go through and cut that out. And those are the inside bits. And then here I'm using the die, the base die, on the acetate because this is going to create our windows. But I also have another piece of cardstock underneath it. Acetate can be super challenging to die cut through. And so here you can see I've run mine through twice, even with cardstock underneath it. And sometimes going at it at a different angle can also help. But sometimes you just have to go through and kind of pop it out. And so that's what you see me doing here. You can rip acetate, so you do need to be gentle. But typically you can treat it kind of like a perforated edge, and then you can just kind of pop it out. Now, if you do have a point that one little area is stuck, usually it's only stuck by one little piece. And when that happens, I just go in with my little detail scissors and just trim that one little connector. And then typically I can get the rest of them out again, just going through and popping it out. So that is what I did here, and that is typically what I have to do when I am doing shakers like this, where I'm not necessarily where they're a shape with a die, versus doing just a square or something like that where you would cut it with your paper trimmer. So once I have that done here, I'm going through laying these out. If you guys watch my videos, you know I love a dry fit. So that's what I'm doing here to see which one I'm going to do. I decided I was going to do the shaker in the heart, and then I was going to do the X's in the pink. But I wanted them to have something on there. So I could have stamped a little background on there. I could have done, some other things. I decided that I was going to make them like striped. And so the guillotine trimmer, even though I put it off buying it forever, it really is the best way to get the most even strips. And so I just have this down on my glass mat, and I am going to hold it in place with just a little bit of tape, and then that way I can kind of line up where my strips go. Yes, my strips are longer than they need to be. It makes it easier to make them straight if you have a little bit of the edges kind of hanging off. It also, it gives you something to grab onto to lay them down. And so I'm just following the grid on my mat to get them evenly spaced. This doesn't have to be absolute perfection. So anyway, this is a short video for me. So I'm already talking a lot, and we haven't even gotten to the giveaway. So for the video hop, for the release, Pretty Pink Patch is very generously giving away a $20 gift card on every stop along the video hop through January 10th. So leave your comments by January 10th to be entered in for that giveaway. And then here, in order to make the stripes diagonal, I am adhering my X's kind of cattywampus. Now, these little banners are great. So these two, there's two banners that pop up, and then there's another two that are kind of decorative. I'm going to put mine together a little bit differently, I think, than they're intended, but that's because I wanted to break up my color scheme. So I've cut it out of, I wasn't sure which one I wanted to do. I've cut the banner out of red, I've cut it out of blue, and then I cut the little scallop one out of white. And I really wanted to be able to layer all three colors on there. So I cut a second one out of the blue. And then I've lined up my sentiment. All of these sentiments fit on there really nicely. One of the banners is slightly longer than the other. But anyway, I used the You're the Sweetest. Treated that with my anti-static tool, stamped that down with some white pigment ink, and then I am going to sprinkle on some white detail pigment ink, and then go ahead and heat set this. Now, I'm not going to use this with the little scallop. I'm actually going to trim out, the inside edge has a little stitching element on there, and so I'm just going to follow along that little stitching edge and trim this out so it's slightly smaller, and then that way I can layer them up to make my banner look a little bit different, but then also it's going to break up because I got a lot of you'll be able to hear my little bits shake here, sorry. Because I have the blue in the background, and when I did the blue banner, it felt like it kind of blended into the background, and I didn't really love that. And then the red kind of blended into the shaker, and I didn't really love that. So layering them up a little bit differently helped them kind of stand out. So I trimmed down my stenciled piece, and then I adhered that onto a white card base. And now this square is just an inch smaller than an A2. So instead of being 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, it's 3 1/4 by 4 1/2. So it allows us to see that stencil, but it gives us a nice place for our shaker to live and really be the focal point. So here, like I said before, my foam is not the adhesive foam. I do intend to purchase some of that though, because I think that would make it infinitely even easier than even what this is. And this did not take me very much time to put together at all. So I'm going to add some adhesive to the back of my foam. I'm going to put that onto a white piece that I've cut out of the backer. And then once I have that in place, I'll be able to get my little shaker bits, the Love is Kind shaker bits that inspired the whole color theme right here. I think this might be Jelly Bean's Valentine's Day card, because she loves a little shaker element. You know, she loves the little glitters. And then from here, I am going to adhere the red to the acetate, which the acetate is going to act like our lid for our shaker. So I'm going to lay that on top of my acetate. And I do find with liquid adhesive that I do kind of have to press and like wait for it to dry for a little bit, like kind of like press and hold there for a second, for it to adhere to it. And then I will be able to add the adhesive on the back of the acetate. And again, you definitely have to wait for it to grab hold of that foam. I am a person who's very impatient. So sometimes when I put it on there, I then just want to like move on to the next step, and I have to wait for it to kind of set, for that glue to set so that everything stays sealed up. So I did find that I needed to kind of move everything around to make sure that it was lined up. So it just works better for me to hold it in my hand. So this was a little bit risky because it wasn't completely sealed with all the shaker bits yet. But it ended up being okay. Thank the Lord. Thank the Lord. And then here I'm just double checking, which way my X's need to fit in. So again, with the dry fit, I can't help myself. So then once I have those in, and I know how they're going, I will be able to remove them, and then I will just adhere these right on top of the acetate for the X's. You could also, you could put it inside, we do with the shaker bits, you could glue the X down. But I liked it sitting on top because then it made everything level. So that worked for me. And then I'm going to adhere this again, just a little bit kind of off center so that it's a little bit diagonal, just to add a little bit of extra interest because I have a lot of really straight edges going on in here. So I'm just going to intentionally adhere it just so that it's a little bit kind of turned at a diagonal. And then that sentiment banner that we were working on. Oh, something else to know. I did, because I do love the glitters, I did go around and do just some nice clear glitters on the red. You could use stickles to make them super glittery, but I didn't want them to be competing with the shaker. Then I did go in with a white gel pen. These dies have a stitched element on there, embossed in there. And I was like, oh, well, maybe I'll use my white gel pen and kind of go around that. I did not love that. With all of the other white that we had going on there, I just didn't love it. So after I did the two, I stopped. I have to wait for it to dry so that I can go back in and fix it, because everything's fixable. It's just paper. Here we have the sentiment that we heat embossed and then trimmed. I'm adhering that to the red banner, and then I'm actually going to put the scallop underneath it. So I'm going to have that to break up the edges of the red banner over the exo frame. And that's going to work really well. So in order to fix that, like I said, I waited for it to be dry, and then I went in with a red alcohol marker and just went right over top of that. You can still see it somewhat, but not anything that would be too terribly noticeable. Alternatively, you could also just cut another one of those out of red and just layer it right on top, and that would also hide it. So now here, now that I have everything kind of put together, I am going to put, I'm going to adhere this down. So the red banner is adhered to the scallop, but just on the edges, because this pops up. Like you fold the edges and then that pops up. So in order for this to be super sturdy, once I get this part down, I'm going to take 2 layers of foam tape and slide them in between the 2 banners. And I needed 2 because of how high it pops up. And then that will hold that. I almost made it a whole video without a cough drop and a coughing fit, but it didn't happen. So anyway, for my gemstones, like normally that's what I would use. I actually took some of the hearts out of the clay. Why can't I remember the name of it? I have to. The Sweet XOXO mix. That's what it is. And they have little white clay hearts in there. So I grabbed some of those and used those as my embellishments. Those are super, super cute. And then pretty much that's it. That's the whole card. So I hope that little foam trick is super helpful to you. I used to do it. I got away from it and was doing the multiple cuts of the cards. But now that I'm doing more shaker cards, I got to go back to the foam. It's like the easiest way to get the job done. Don't forget to leave a comment. Thank you guys so much for joining me. I always appreciate your time. And please continue along the hop. There's tons of inspiration. And I'll catch you guys on the next video. Bye.